What up, y'all? Welcome to episode 11 of That Time in Hip Hop, a podcast about the nostalgia, the history, and more importantly, the preservation of hip hop music and culture. I am your host, Vegas of Hip Hop Now Podcast. I got the homie Tone from IntoTheDome.com. What's good, fam?
Good man, a little cayenne and ginger drink, dog.
Oh, wow. Oh, no. Oh, okay. No water.
Yeah,
I just finished up this bottle of red wine that my sister-in-law left here that is really strong, but whatever.
right.
It ain't do say strong though. It ain't do say strong. Uh, but if you're watching for the first time, like I said, this is the type of podcast you may be interested in as a hip hop fan because it's not just two dudes up here talking about the nostalgia of hip hop and reminiscing on our younger days. Some of that happens, and I mean that's natural for when you grew up on something. But we are more concerned with teaching you something or helping you remember something. That being from the facts to the rumors of uh, albums, artists, events that happen in hip hop history. Just trying to make sure that we keep hip hop alive the way it should be. And there's some people out there championing hip hop and hip hop history, but we must not forget some of the events of the past, some of the players that played a role in this hip hop game. Please know that you can subscribe to this channel and hit that like button and share it with people you know enjoy this type of content because honestly, we're trying to grow the channel. Therefore, we can grow the content and get it out to more people and then improve upon it. Uh, also, real quick, coming up on my podcast, Hip Hop Now podcast, I'm going to be doing a best of 2018. Tone, I know we've been online like everybody else for every album that's dropped, and it's been a lot.
Mhm.
Well, 2018 so far, let me say that because it's the second quarter. But I know, I mean, I've seen some of your tweets, some of your posts about albums, man. How you feeling about 2018 as far as hip hop so far?
Well, 2018 has been pretty good overall. I do feel like the good music move by Kanye West is a little rushed. I commend them for trying to put a lot of material out. I do enjoy the Pusha T album, and I can appreciate them trying to flood the airways with a lot of music, but some of the projects feel kind of rushed. They're not really mastered, engineered as well as I like to hear them. But outside of that, Nipsey Hussle joint is fire. Again, Pusha
Hmm.
T joint is fire. Um, Couple of good mixtapes, and Drake is dropping in about 48 hours. Which like
Yeah,
him or not, that's a big project. I think it's a double CD is the rumor right now with Drake dropping that Scorpion. I think double CD. Um, a lot of good freestyles on Funk Flex over the last couple of months. I mean, the year starting out pretty solid, man. But we'll see how it end up with the summer, the end of the summer, and the fall and the winter coming up. But it's been overall a pretty solid year so far.
yeah, I agree, and I think go like doing this type of podcast that I've done in the past, as far as the best so far. Um, Probably for like the last 2 years, there's always been those. Maybe we'll get that Black Thought project. Maybe
Right,
we'll get that Nas project.
right.
Maybe King Push will come out this year. And it's funny because all of them joints just came out like
They
within
did.
a couple, which is crazy. So it'll be interesting to see what the rest of the year holds as far as
Let
hip
me ask
hop.
you a question, Blake.
Yeah, what's up?
Since it's June 27th, so
Mhm.
far this year in 2018, has a classic album dropped in your opinion?
A classic album.
Or something where you would consider pretty amazing piece of work?
I think Royce the Five Nine's Book of Ryan is pretty close. Um,
I like that album.
you know what I'm saying? I think it's pretty close because I think I reviewed it on a video on this channel, but I think when it started out, I kind of felt like, oh well, it's typical Royce, which isn't a bad thing. He rapping. he rapidly rapping, you know what I'm saying? A bunch of bars and stuff like that. But then as it went on and the whole connection and stories about his father and males and his family and him and his son and and none of it's really like preachy or corny. You know what I'm saying? It's really dope. And it made me feel like, wow, he finally made an album as a whole that I could take in and say, yo, this is a good ass piece of work here. Like this is excellent.
And
That may be it.
yeah, I think that's what's been missing in 2018. If nothing else, Royce the 5'9", Booker Ryan felt like an actual experience of actual album I can ride to for 2 hours, and I can see his life. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like that's how 90s and 80s albums to me sounded. Nowadays these 6 song, 7 song EPs or albums, whatever you call them, it leave a lot to be desired. Even if the project is good, soon as you start getting emotionally invested into it, it ends. And I
nope.
think the Book of Ryan, he talked about his life, his situation with his mom and dad, him being a father,
Mm,
growing up, going to certain places in his life with his family. He brought you into his world, man, in Detroit, man. So I appreciate that. And Book of Ryan was my favorite album of the year so far.
mm,
um, I enjoy Black Thought's project. It's very short, but he did rhyme his ass off on there. But
yeah,
I'm gonna agree with you. I like the Book of Ryan. I like Nipsey Hussle's CD. Um, but right now I'm still waiting to see how the rest of the year end up, man. Because to me right now, even though it's a good solid year, it's still a lot to be desired, man.
yeah. We'll see what happens, man. We got some time, and like you said, there's things in the horizon, and we'll see how the year plays out. Uh, but for you who want to take a trip back in time, this is the part in the show where we talk about what happened this week in hip hop. If you're from the future, get your ass out of here. But we like to go over a couple of things that happened in this week in hip hop. A dude who's been looked at, and a lot of people didn't know this, and there was some time where I didn't know this, as the father of gangster rap. And no, he's not from the West Coast. And no, he's not even from New York City. He's from Philadelphia. It's Schoolie D, Tone, Schoolie D. Didn't have many hits or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Doesn't have like the bona fide classic album that everybody could just be like, oh, Schoolie D. Sometimes people don't even remember his name. Well, hold up. The brother was born in June 22nd, 1962. Let me just say that. But he has been credited by many of rappers and most notably Ice T as the dude who first brought some of that thug, some of that gangster to his lyrics. I mean, some of them records, they these are back in the day records, and you're talking about robbing people. Like it's not what you like. Don't get me
Yeah,
wrong.
yeah.
Like dudes like Just Ice were gangsters, but he didn't focus on rhyming about it. Where Schoolie D was just like, "Yo, this is what we do. Why can't we rhyme about it?" Like we like to party also. Real quick, if you want to see Schoolie D in recent years, he appeared on the Netflix special Hip Hop Evolution. I believe they set it up where they were talking to Ice T, and he brought up Schoolie D, and they went to visit Schoolie D. But the only way he would grant an interview is if they brought him some cake. He is a gangster
Yeah.
because I can't figure that out. That's what it is. But Tone, Schoolie D, what you know about this pioneer?
Look, man, I remember again. I'm in my early 40s. My brother is 50 years old, and he DJ'd in the 80s. And I remember him playing around 85ish, 86 PSK. What does it mean? Now, I didn't
Mm,
know at the time what PSK mean. I just thought the beat was hard. Again, Schoolie D was spitting gangster rhymes, man. And I ended up finding out later, and I'm just looking on my phone right now. The PSK is for Parkside Killers in Philly.
mhm.
So it was a gangster track, and he was talking about drugs, the hood, murders, and in rap at the time, that was foreign land because during that same time PSK came out, But MC was talking about rock box. They was partying and
Hmm.
Aerosmith type stuff. Really, I mean, it was a lot of rock and roll mixed with hip hop because of Def Jam. And then LL Cool J had his joints out, and Treacherous Three had their songs, but nothing was gangster. And when School of D came on PSK, it kind of changed the game because it's like, yo, we rapping about that. You know what I'm saying? Like he was talking about Parkside Killers. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? And nobody, his first album, School of D self-titled in '85, it only had 6 or 7 songs on it, but PSK was a standout joint, man.
Yeah.
And just like when you said something about Ice T studied that song. So when he did 6 in the morning, if you go back and listen to PSK at 6 in the morning back to back, it's not that 6 in the morning sound just like PSK, but Ice T has said on numerous interviews that he listened and jacked the flow
Mm.
of PSK and made 6 in the morning police at my door. It was kind of the same type of thing. So that
It is.
influence
It
kind
is.
of spawned gangster rap. And after Ice-T took PSK, the West Coast started incorporating a lot of gangster rap leading up to N.W.A. and a lot of the Compton's Most Wanted and and
Yeah.
all these groups in LA and in California. That spawned from Ice-T, was spawned from Schoolie D. So make no mistake about it. Without Schoolie D, West Coast hip hop might be different.
It might be different. It might be what Easy say, lipsticks and lace.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? It
Jerry
might have
Heller
just
might
been
not
all
ever
about the
listen to.
flow.
Absolutely, Jerry Heller might not listen to that demo of Easy Does It. And henceforth, a lot of things in hip hop might not be the way it is now. We'll get into that in this show, but make no mistake about it, man. School is a legend for gangster hip hop. Most hardcore hip hop enthusiasts know who he is. Fans, if you're listening right now, if you say you love hardcore hip hop, you need to go back to YouTube, put PSK in, and also put in Biggie Small's Life After Death, and you'll hear he paid homage to PSK on an interlude on Life After Death. He rhymes over the same beat and use the same flow and cadence as Schoolie D did on PSK. What does it mean? Yes, sir.
Exactly, man. So happy birthday to that dude, man.
Yeah,
Salute, not often mentioned, but needs to be. And obviously, on a program like this, we are always going to mention the pioneers and the dudes who set it off for so many others. And
absolutely.
like Tone said, man, 6 degrees separation. And today is a special kind of show for y'all because it's not necessary. It's about a time in hip hop, but it's about various times in hip hop and various individuals and how the different things that happened to those individuals impacted the hip hop game. So just like we mentioned, Schoolie D, PSK, and doing what is essentially gangster rap at a time where everybody was partying and collaborating with rock beats and stuff like that, or experimenting with rock beats and stuff like that. He was on the block when it wasn't cool to rap about being on the block. So, Tone, tell the people what this week's episode is all about,
Man, Vay, you and I spoke last week, and we kind of talked about this more than once with other people that we know in a little podcast world. Like, this is the time in hip hop, the what if, because people always talk about what if this happened and what if that happened. And so we want to talk about, what if N.W.A. would have never broken up? What if Biggie would have never died? What if Pop would have never went to jail? These are hypotheticals, but these hypotheticals would have changed our entire culture, would have changed the way records were released, albums released, record labels moved, and things of that nature. It would have changed who would have got signed. Some of your favorite MCs would be non-existent if certain
man.
things happen in hip hop. So this is the what if episode. I hope you guys enjoy this episode. We're gonna bring up a lot of material. We're gonna talk a lot of scenarios. Please, when you guys finish, comment in the comment section. Let us know what you think. Like, what if certain situations happen and how you would look at the game and certain MCs and groups and things of that nature, man. So we're gonna have fun with this one. Veg, man, you want to start it off? You want me to start a what if off, man? Let's have some fun tonight, man.
Well, I like where you started, man. Let's start with, what if NWA never broke up as a group, man? And
Oh man,
honestly, that kind of that crushes me in some sense because like Ice Cube's lyrics, his albums, especially his solo albums, especially Death Certificate,
mm,
um, is part of my DNA, not only as when I became a rapper, but also how I approach things from a dude who's coming from the hood, but also I'm a dude who's studied and was in higher learning and using that and the fact that Ice Cube also went to college. So like to know that maybe we don't get those solo albums. What do you think we getting if NWA never broke up?
I tell you, when you look at the N.W.A. family tree, Vegan for anyone listening, we talking about an entire culture was influenced by this. So let's say, what if N.W.A. stayed together? Okay, you might not have gotten Ice Cube's solo career, so you don't get America's Most Wanted, which is my favorite Ice Cube album. I'm not saying it's better than Death Certificate, but you don't get America's Most Wanted when he went to New York and did the album with the Bomb Squad and Public Enemy with Chuck D and the Chocolate Brothers. You don't get that possibly. You don't get the Death Certificate. You don't get Kill a Will. You don't get Lethal Injection. You might not get Friday the movie. You don't get
Yeah.
Chris Tucker, who becomes a star after Friday. Maybe that doesn't happen. You don't get his whole Hollywood career that spawned Mike Epps. You know what I'm saying? You maybe don't even get the big three baller league right now for basketball. So we're talking about Ice Cube from 89, 90 to 2018. You might not get that in the same context because Ice Cube would have still been with NWA. Now,
Yeah.
Dre stays with NWA. You don't get the Chronic,
You
which is
don't get Death
you don't get Death Row. Period. First of all, and second of all, you don't get the Chronic, where that ended up being probably the best engineered album in hip hop history. It spawned Snoop Dogg after Deep Cover. So if
Mhm.
you think about the career and the life and the cultural icon of Snoop Dogg, all the way up to being on a show right now, a cooking show, you know what I'm saying? You don't
Yeah.
get Snoop. Okay, you might not get the Dog Pound. You know what I'm saying? You don't get so many things that spawn from Death Row because you don't get Death Row. So maybe you don't get an Eminem because there's no Death Row, there's no aftermath.
Yeah.
So you don't get Eminem, right? If you don't get Eminem,
You don't
50
get
Cent might have stayed in Queens, South Side, Jamaica, Queens as an underground rapper.
You know what's interesting about that? Like, as you go through that entire thread,
Jeez.
obviously some people could say, well, dudes is talented enough to still come up in some way, but that's the point. That's the glory in this whole topic is it's not happening the same way. Like
That's
maybe
right.
you
Not the
get
same way.
yeah, exactly. You get in Eminem on Raucous, maybe. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
You're not getting Eminem with Dr. Dre beats, which helped to take him to the highest status that he, achieved. Same thing, like you said, with 50 Cent. He gets dropped, and maybe that's it for him, or maybe he signs to somebody like Def Jam on his own, or whatever, or he never comes out. It's
Yep.
it's just kind of crazy because well, actually, now you think about it, put it this way. I think about the fact that they was always going to probably expand upon the group anyway, because they kind of was doing it with DOC.
That's true.
So I think gotten somebody like Snoop based off of the Warren G thing. Um, but maybe the Dog Pound. But I believe like some of those not hires, but some of those signings was a way to bolster the Death Row roster as opposed to if they were all on Ruthless. Is
And,
everybody getting the deal? You know what I'm saying?
and think about this. When we think about Ruthless Records, uh, stand and the NBA staying together, well, we think about Snoop Dogg. Dr. Dre was under pressure. People function different under pressure. Dre leaves Ruthless Records. He stars Death Row with Suge Knight. He need a star. He's not a rapper. So it's like, okay, I got this young guy, Snoop. I got to push him. okay, Rage, RBX, the Dog. I gotta push because I'm under pressure to make the Chronic the best album I can make it because the Chronic is doing that. The Chronic flops, Death Row flops.
Yeah.
See, a lot of people don't understand that. The Chronic flops, there's no dog style. You know what I'm saying? There's no dog style. There's no dog food. There's no anything else after that. So N.W.A. standing together, if that would have happened, changes the whole landscape. Okay, Eazy-E end up having Bone Thugs. Maybe Bone Thugs never happened because I'm not looking for a group because I'm so invested in N.W.A. So now you got Cleveland hip hop scene is totally different. If we fast forward a few years, if there's no Death Row, Tupac don't sign with Death Row while he's in jail.
Yeah, maybe Tupac's not getting out of jail.
Tupac is not getting out of jail, y'all. So understand the importance of this What If episode. If Tupac has to do that entire bid and he get out, he's probably still stuck on the East Coast.
Mm-hmm.
There is nowhere for him to sign out west. There's nobody bailing him out. So now, if he gets out, let's say he makes a million with Biggie Smalls and Puff. Is Tupac on Bad Boy? Is Tupac aligned with Boot Camp Clique because he was cool with them? Is he aligned with Organized Noise in Atlanta because he was very fond of the Goody Mob? There's a video with him in the studio with Goody Mob before he passed. So now you're seeing that there's no hit 'em up, right? If there's no beef. So now also he's not in LA with Suge Knight for the Tyson fight. None of this never happens. He's not out there. He's not fighting Baby Lane, Orlando Anderson, and in the Southside Crips or from Compton or whatever the case may be. None of that ever happens.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
what
saying?
else? It also would have, I'm just gonna go on a limb and say it would have killed his momentum because he had a dope album, Me Against the World, while he was in prison. He had the article, and it was like the minute the hype and the attention of that album started to come down a little bit, then he's free and he's on death row and he's recorded a million songs and he dissing Biggie and all. Like this roller coaster happens afterwards. Without that roller coaster, is Tupac still relevant in the mid '90s anymore? You know what I'm saying? Is he still in the same pocket because the death row signing took him to another level? You know what I'm saying? He took it to another level with the music and energy. And another thing, like what you said about the Chronic, Dr. Dre has been on record for saying because of the Ruthless record situation, trying to get out of there, he started to smoke weed. That helped bring the Chronic around because dudes gave him some Chronic. He loved it, and then he was just smoking and making beats and making that album. That album, like you said, was fueled by the situation. And it's crazy to think about it because we done came all the way to damn near 2018 with it. And it all started with N.W.A. if they broke up or didn't break up back in what year was that? Like 1990 or something like that?
Actually it was before. We're talking about 89-ish because that's when Jerry Heller and Eazy-E was pretty much taking the majority of the funds from N.W.A. As a whole. And, Ice Cube kind of got pissed off because he never signed that deal to get that $75,000 like Dre and Ren and Yell and everyone. He's like, yeah, I'm not doing that. So they basically like, well, okay, well, shit, you can just kind of fuck off. And, and that's what he did. And, he did something that, he had already been on tour before with Public Enemy. Ended up, let me understand, N.W.A. was on tour with Public Enemy before. You know what I mean? So some of these guys had met and befriended each other. Cube goes to New York and does American Most Wanted, and the rest is history. You know what I'm saying? So you don't even have that if they could establish their relationship with Eazy-E, Heller, and the rest of the N.W.A. members. You talking about West Coast hip hop and hip hop in general changed because N.W.A. broke up. You know what I mean? And like again, you said we're spawning this whole thing to Snoop and Eminem he had an album in '96 called Infinite when he was rapping like Nas and AZ. He was rapping like he'd been listening to Firm album every day. So he's an underground white rapper. He never becomes Slim Shady without Dr. Dre. You know what I'm saying? 50 Cent was an underground rapper from Queens. He had done a couple of joints, and then he got dropped and he got shot. He might have stayed a mixtape rapper. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? Or might have not ever been any more famous than a J. Rue the Damage or OC. Who knows? You know what I'm saying? There's no G Unit. There's no Lower Banks. There's no, maybe the game doesn't even happen now. The game is still in Compton doing mixtapes on his, selling out his car. There is no game.
And that's really important because I think for me and probably a lot of people, what attracted them to Game's music is he felt like old school rap in a new school time,
Yeah.
and he name dropped a lot, but he kind of brought that N.W.A, that early '90s West Coast gangster rap feeling back. Um, one thing I think about before we move on to the next one is what kind of albums we would have got, because
Mm.
you talking about the second album, Niggas for Life already being dope, especially because Dr. Dre stepped up his production, but now you also have Ice Cube, who also got better lyrically
Yes, he did.
on that album and other albums to come, man. So I mean,
Mm.
it's one of those things where things turn out the way they turned out. You can't go back and take it back, but it's almost like it's positives on both sides.
Let me say
You know what
one
I'm saying?
last. Let me say one
Yeah.
last thing on that too. When we think about the family tree of N.W.A and everything in hip hop and pop culture after that, I want to say on record, I could be totally wrong, people. I could be totally wrong. If the N.W.A thing doesn't happen, there's no Death Row. I think we still got Tupac and Biggie, man. Think about that real close.
Well, yeah, yeah,
We potentially, because anything can happen in life, we potentially still have Tupac and Biggie because none of that stuff happens because the kid down in Atlanta, Suge Knight best friend, doesn't get killed. Pac is never going to this Tyson fight because he's still in jail.
uh-huh.
I mean, I don't know. This is all speculation as we conclude with the end of a part of the show. But man, just think about what could have been, man.
Yeah. I like to watch like a movie could be complete trash, but if it have alternate realities and time travel, I just be all into that shit.
Yeah.
And then that's basically what this is. And I can't help but bring the sci-fi into it just a little bit and feel like, well, maybe Tupac and Biggie don't die, but maybe somebody else does,
Mm.
you know? And it could be, we don't wish death on anybody, but it could be worse, could be better, could be somebody we still have now, different situation, you know what I'm saying? So it's crazy. And since we speaking on that, and a record is playing right now, Hypnotized, the remastered version, and Pockets right there. Tone, tell me, what if Tupac and Biggie would have lived? What what would have happened? Who's not even as large as they are now? Who's not even getting signed?
You know what? When I think about Pac and Biggie, first Tupac, getting out of jail, at some point he would have gotten out. When you talking about a young man like Pac at the time, his aura and charisma at some point would have put him somewhere. He had already done Above the Rim and Juice and all of this stuff like that. He might be Will Smith right now. Because you talk about a person who had the it factor. I have a couple of homeboys who actually kicked it with him before in Atlanta before he passed away. The charisma was real. He did have the look. The chicks did like him. The dudes respected him. He had a lot of energy. He really could act. He really could write poetry. He really could write songs. Dear Mama and those type of songs were not a mistake. He had that kind of gift. So getting out of jail at some point with that talent, I do think at some point he would have been in Hollywood a lot more. I think that he would have been a lead actor at some point because you can't deny that kind of talent. You can't deny that look. He had the it, whatever it is. Even
Yeah,
as a man, I give props where it's due. Pac had the it, whatever that is.
yeah, and
And my
yo,
own,
just to add on to the movie part, I think you're 100% right because there's two things that went in my mind when I've heard them before, and you've heard them too. It would have been Pac starring in Baby Boy.
yeah,
I think it would have been a very different movie. A movie that I don't personally like. Sorry, black people, but Not everybody like Baby Boy, except for one scene. I do like when Snoop come in the living room and like, "What you building, little nigga, a fort?"
Yeah,
And
that's
Shorty's
funny,
like, "You
dog.
know, my daddy." That shit was just really funny to me. But you get Tupac in that role instead of Tyrese. And another one that I found out that really blows my mind is the fact that when George Lucas was talking about bringing back the prequel Star Wars movies, the one that tells the story of Darth Vader becoming Darth Vader, he wanted Tupac originally to play the Jedi Master Mace Windu. You talking about Tupac
Ooh,
Star Wars? Tupac and Star Wars.
and that's
So I think you're
yeah,
absolutely right, man.
yeah. That goes back to my whole point again. That kind of talent would have elevated. I do think he would have ended up still being a dope MC. He would have been a famous rapper, of course. But when you think about the deuces of Butter Rivers and all the stuff you just mentioned, he was going to elevate in Hollywood at some point anyway. He probably would end up marrying some, beautiful Hollywood chick and had a family. He would have been a staple in entertainment regardless because, like I said, one of my friends, he done kicked it with him a couple of times. And he said, man, real talk, when you go in the room and park in the room, the energy is whatever in whatever corner he's standing in, man. He said that was very real. You know what I'm saying?
Mm,
People just vibed off him. So I think Pop would have been fine. I think he could have still ended up being a big star. When it comes to Biggie Smalls, I always tell people I did a video last year on the anniversary of Life After Death. And what I was saying was at that moment, he had put his total talent in place. He mastered every style of MCing on Life After Death. So trust me and believe me, if that man would have survived, there's no telling how that third album would have been. Biggie was on
mm,
top of the world. Biggie had the flow, the voice. He had a powerful presence on the mic. There's no denying what Biggie would have been. You know what I'm saying? He was going to be a hip hop star. Let's not get it twisted. He already was one. Ready to Die, Life
yeah,
After Death were classics. You still had the joints with Total, the stuff with Lil Kim, all the stuff with 112, the Mace. The Locks was going to be larger even with Big. So Biggie was going to push Bad Boy like he was pushing it anyway. No denying that. He was going to be a big hip hop star. Uh, he was trying to do the commission with Jay-Z and Charlie Baltimore and I believe Cameron as well. Uh, Contrary to popular belief, Jay-Z was dope even at that time doing uh,
mhm,
Brooklyn's Finest, I Love the Dough, Young G's, all this shit with Biggie. They were going to rock together. I think hip hop is different because Jay Z is a different Jay Z moving forward. Not saying he wasn't going to be a star because he was too good not to be one, but
yeah,
rap is different if Biggie is alive and the commission would have happened. I think both of them, Biggie and Pop, would have still been large in their own right. But hip hop after them is different because do we get DMX? Do we get Ja Rule? Do we get 50 Cent? Because we got Pac already. You know what I'm saying?
mhm.
So that trickle down effect of Biggie and Pac surviving, the whole game still changes because of that.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder, who could get in the door because I always said this about Jay Z, and obviously it wasn't a slight. I mean, I was already on his music before Reasonable Doubt. When I always tell this story on my podcast when I was in downtown Brooklyn and this young dude, just some straight dirty little cat, probably in high school but not in class, just rolled up in me in the record store. It was like handing me this sampler, and it was a Reasonable Doubt sampler on a cassette with some verses that never made that album, some songs that never made the album. I actually have it in here. Um, but I always felt like when Big passed, because Jay Z's style of rapping, being able to still have bars and do a party record, I felt like he was so similar to Big in that way that he could take that mantle and go forward with it. Unlike Nas, who's kind of like typecast because he wasn't really like a party record dude, and he wound up having a couple here and there, but not to the extent of a Big or a Jay Z. So I still feel like Jay Z would have been big. I don't think he would have been as big as he became, but I think he still would have been. He would have met that not that situation, but that rhyme he brought up of who's the best MCs, Biggie, Jay Z, and Nas. I think it would have meant more in the future because he would have got nicer like he did. Um, but I also agree with you when feeling like certain rappers wouldn't have got the shine. First of all, shine. You don't have shine if
Absolutely
Big is
not.
here. Because he's just a copy. You don't have what's that dude, Gorilla Black, if
Nope.
Big is here. Um, maybe the appeal of Rick Ross isn't as strong if Big's here
Right.
because
So then,
it's kind
so
of like,
then you don't. Yeah. So then you don't have Maybach Music. You might not have excuse me, uh, Meek Mills. You might not have
yes,
Wale. Might have never blown up. And yeah, you're right. That's true.
yeah. It's because it's kind of like we Big is going and we're kind of searching for him in other people, just like with Tupac. Tupac's going, oh, here's this dude named DMX. He got a bald head. He got his shirt off. What I'm saying? He's kind of fit. He kind of remind me of that energy that's, Tupac, bringing that thug back into the music. Like you mentioned before, like even Master P. Master P kind of having
Yep.
someone Tupac flow. But if you don't have Master P, you don't have No Limit. You don't have No Limit. Maybe you don't have Cash Money Records. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And to think that Tupac is affecting that much and Biggie is affecting that much is real. But it's another thing I thought about? Do their albums sell as well? Because don't get me wrong, I love Life After Death. I love Machiavelli the Dome. But like I know, their record sales went from a couple of platinum to a lot of platinum, strictly off the strength of their death because these albums were released like a
Well,
week or two after their deaths.
well, Greg, when we think about that, we must think about pop culture. And what I mean by that is, first of all, yes, of course they sold more because they died. But that's anything in pop culture because I mean, hell, James Dean became a legend after Rebel Without a Pause or whatever, or Cause or whatever. And he was a young guy, got killed and he crashed his car and he becomes an icon because he's young, so you don't see his potential grow. Marilyn Monroe was like 37, 38 when she died, so you're gonna get immortalized. It was Presley was kind of young, Yeah, Richie Valens and Buddy Holly died in a plane crash with Big Bubble, Big Baby. The day that hip hop, I mean, rock and roll died. So I mean, you got these people that died young, Jimi Hendrix, Morrison, etc. So you're gonna be sensationalizing death, unfortunately. So yeah, Machiavelli might end up selling, 2-3 million, and maybe Biggie wouldn't have went diamond, of course, with Life After Death, but maybe he sold 3 million. But at that time, 3 million was a great album sale. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? So, you know, I don't think it hurt in terms of it would just be more reality sales, you know what I'm saying? Because they would have been alive. But I think still both of them releasing those kind of albums, they still in the forefront of hip hop. Um, Death Row is still going to be riding high with Machiavelli, and because earlier that year they did not Millions the World, but All Eyes on Me. Biggie still riding, the bad boy wave. So, yeah, they wouldn't have sold the same amount, but they were still going to be probably the two biggest stars in rap at the time.
yeah, and I think one thing that definitely um I feel like would have happened is you would have got some sort of reconciliation of their relationship.
Yeah,
Um, at some point because it feels like Tupac was going there, but he was in the thick of things, so it wasn't quite there yet. And I really feel like Tupac's the type of dude where that would have been squashed. Had they lived long enough to do things differently. Um, there was another thing. Oh, and this is the other thing that I always felt, especially back then. If Big didn't die, you don't get Jay-Z versus Nas. You don't get Ether and Takeover.
no, you
Because
absolutely don't.
you know what I'm saying? Because you those are two cats battling for a crown that belonged to a dude that died. But the only one that was really testing that crown, as far as the conversation in New York City was, and on the campus of Morgan State, and probably every black campus now I think about it, was who's better, Biggie or Nas. I think you were going to get that because they were throwing the subliminals first.
Plenty of them.
Yeah, they were taking jabs at each other first, and I don't think it would have been as brutal because I think the thing with Ether and Takeover is the simple fact that those dudes felt some way about each other, and were friends of friends, kind of. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah, they had the
you
female
were around.
factor.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas Big and Nas had more of a connection, especially through Puff trying to sign Nas and stuff like that at certain points. So there was a competition, and I'll say this because Biggie was one dude to shoot from the hip, just like Tupac. I remember when Biggie won the Lyricist of the Year award, and he said, "Lyricist." I thought that would go to somebody like Nas. So as
Yeah,
much
he did.
you know what I'm saying? So there was admiration there, which would have made their battle really a battle of the skill. Whereas with Jay-Z and Nas, it was a little personal. But
It
you
was a
wouldn't
lot
have got
personal. It was a lot personal. I do believe Biggie and Nas would have been more MCing because they respected each other. Same way when it was written when Double Platinum and Nas tell the story. You can look at the interview on YouTube where Biggie was like, "Yo, you got that monkey off your back, son." You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, he respected Nas, and he was like, "Okay, now we know we're on that same level." But it pushed both of them creatively because again, I think it was a remix of a joint with the firm when Nas said something about I take like the crown of the fake king of New York and knock it off type thing, and talking about Biggie. Everybody who's talking about Biggie, anybody who's in the hip hop, and then then Big comes back with you rain on the top with short like leprechauns, like crushed so-called Willies,
yeah,
thugs and rapper dog, Willie Esco, Nas. You know what I'm saying? It was just direct shot at Nas. Like your rain was all right, but it was short. It was written. You took over New York for a little while. If I rule the world, whatever. Now I'm back. You know what I'm saying? We're hypnotized, and I'm back with Life After Death, and I'm the Don again. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? So
man. Like when you think about
absolutely,
that verse, it was 100%. I mean, I guess Nas felt he had to confirm it, but he didn't have to confirm it because when I heard the verse, I knew exactly he was talking to him, and obviously he was talking to a couple of other New York rappers who
it
saw
was
some
it was talking to Nas
success.
personally.
Yeah, yeah, because Nas is that other dude.
Yep.
He's the the in the GOAT conversation, so to speak, when it came to those two. Um, but it's crazy how things played out. Like you said, you know, the Commission album would it been as bad as the Firm?
Yeah.
Would it
Who
have been
knows?
better?
It's hard to
You know,
know.
it's hard to know. You're talking about Jay-Z, Biggie, and Charlie Baltimore. What I would have preferred Lil Kim, but who knows why they chose not to. But the one other thing that I didn't want to leave out because we did talk about Tupac beyond hip hop with the movies and stuff. But one thing that I know that Big was doing, and we could all see it, was he was also getting his business up.
Yep.
With the Junior Mafia stuff, with Lil Kim and Lil C's and Un Entertainment or Undies, the label they were starting, and they had Cameron in the back pocket. That was another one of their artists. What happens then? Biggie's controlling Cameron's career. Do we eventually get Dipset? You know what I'm saying? Do we get Big L on that label as opposed to in obscurity or eventually trying to go to somewhere like Rockefeller? You don't know. You just don't know, man.
Yeah.
It's
That's a
crazy.
lot. I didn't think about that, but you're right. If the commission works and Cameron's on the Undies and everything like that with Biggie and all of those guys, there's really no need for Dipset. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So you talking about the entire movement in Harlem is totally different. Maybe Big L ends up signing close to that time and get out the streets. But we know Big L was in the streets. If you look at that with that freestyle on IG with Cameron, he was like grew up with Big L and the dude supposedly killed him. But what was he supposed to do? The week before that, Big L tried to kill him. You know what I'm saying? So L
mhm.
was still in the street, but maybe L already got that good record deal. Get out of Harlem a little bit. Maybe L is not dead. Jay
Yeah,
Z was a big fan of Big L. They ran together. At some point, everybody's heard the famous freestyle with the 7 minute freestyle with Big L and Jay Z. Jay Z said on record more than once that he was gonna bring L to Rockefeller, but he got killed during that time. Him and L was talking about it. So, you know, Biggie and Pop surviving. There's a lot of same when we talk about N.W.A. with these two guys surviving. There's a whole culture shift happens.
yeah, man. And what's crazy, and you did it earlier. That's why we the professionals up here. those connections of Death Row and all of that stuff not happening as a result of N.W.A. directly impact Biggie and Tupac, and you just see how all these things shift. One other thing I wanted to add: Lil Kim looks like she used to. I think so. I don't think Lil Kim has as much plastic surgery as she used to. You
Well,
know?
if Big, yeah, absolutely. If Big is alive, because of her respect, love, fear, all these different emotions for him, she would never have done that. In my personal opinion, because
Yeah.
you did that first little surgery, Big would have been like, "What are you doing? Don't ever do that again." You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? And I believe he would have said it. I believe she would have listened.
Yeah, and that was his artist. So that's the other thing. He would have been, looking at, what would have worked. And who knows, maybe that whole thing would have shifted and they would have broke up because we can assume everything would have went for the better, but Big could have went Big or Tupac. Well, not Tupac, maybe Big wanted Tupac because he only had 2 albums. I mean, he could have went the way of Big Daddy Kane, you know what I'm saying? And just did something left field and really disappointed. So you never know what could have happened, but all we know is what did happen. Tone, do we have another one or we kind of covered all of it, right?
Yeah, but you know, there's so many ways to look at these scenarios. We did talk about Ruthless and Bone Thugs already. Um, man, there's so many ways to look at that, but I think those are the main ones that come to mind because I think those are the ones that absolutely would have shifted the culture. There's a lot of other ones to bring up, but these shift the culture, not just hip hop, but pop culture and Hollywood. You
Yeah.
know, so those are probably the main ones, man. Like, on a small note, you know, what if ODB wouldn't have died? I mean, are the Wu Tang albums moving forward as good? Stuff like that. What happens with Freaky Tide not getting killed? The Lost Boys are still making good music to me because I feel like Lost
Mm,
Boys were making great music, but Freaky Tide was the spirit of the Lost Boys. So it's more than just the ad libs. He was the spirit and the energy behind Mr. Cheeks. If you go back and look at the videos now, there is no Lost Boys without the energy, man, of Freaky Top, man. So, is that different? Big Pun survives. Does Fat Joe end up being what he is with Terror Squad? Is Fat Joe what he is today with Big Pun? How's the Bronx and Puerto Ricans in regard to hip hop looked upon if Pun was alive?
yeah, and
You
that's
know,
funny
there's
you say that because Pun was very instrumental in Fat Joe's really his success to this day,
yeah,
uh, with helping with some of the ghostwriting because Pun was there for that Don Cartagena album. He was there for my favorite Fat Joe album, Jealous One's Envy. Um, yeah, and he was also chasing that Grammy. And yeah, you're right. If imagine if Pun is still alive, you know what I'm
right.
saying? One thing though with ODB, which for some of y'all out there was this, you can get a glimpse into the what if, to Rocker time he died, and come out, but the album exists, and it's most of the songs that would have appeared on what would have been his Rockefeller debut, and they are really dope, like really. I forget the name of the album though. Or maybe that's a name someone just gave it, but the bootleg is out there. Just look for like unreleased Old Dirty Bastard album. You can find it, but that's kind of like a glimpse into the future, just like the Tupac albums.
You know
You know,
what?
you know what I'm saying? Mhm.
Also, looking at your backdrop, I see that miseducation of Lauren Hill. What happens if the Fugees don't break up? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like, what does the Fugees become? What does Wyclef Paz and L Boogie become as they're together, and then how they solo efforts and stuff spawn as a result of them having several successful albums after the score. You know what I'm saying? We never got the chance to see what would have happened with those individuals because the group broke up kind of premature. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? So we didn't get to see what it could have been. And that's always unfortunate because there was so much talent when you go back and listen to the score. How could that follow up been, blunted on reality or whatever was dope? The score was legendary. What you do after the score? You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? I mean, and then just one more thing on that, man. I know it's kind of hit close to home, but I'd be remiss if I didn't bring this up. Is what if Nas' best friend Ill Will would have survived his
Hmm.
attack, him being killed? You have an individual who Nas grew up with. And I was on Nas' Instagram the other day, and I saw a picture with Nas in front of their building with his best friend Ill Will and a few other guys from Queens when they were like 8, 9 years old. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They were kids. So if this individual who he loved a lot didn't die, did he have the desire to have Illmatic named after Ill Will? Did he have the desire to keep doing music? Does him and Ill Will end up getting some street stuff because Ill Will wasn't known to be kind of a live cat? You know what I'm saying? So does Nas get in trouble with Will one day and get locked up? You know what I'm saying? Or do they become the musicians that they talked about and that Nas talked about? Because maybe if this guy survives, there is no Illmatic. There is Nas ends up an underground rapper from Queens, and hip hop is different.
And honestly, that's kind of what, not to, put a damper on things for
Right, right.
somebody who enjoys
But
not
I'd be remiss by not saying that.
exactly, but that kind of feels like what would happen. Because now you don't have that energy of your friend passing away and you feeling like you got to do this, and everything is really inspired as far as your process. And this dude is going to be your DJ. You know what I'm
Right,
saying? Because it's rapper and DJ. That's how Nas was trying to come to y'all, as rapper and DJ. Um, yeah, man, and that's old school now. You know what I'm saying?
right.
Maybe
But that
you
was
don't
never back then.
exactly, and
Back
he
then you
didn't.
had Primo, you had Guru and
Mhm.
Primo, you had Pete Rock and CL Smooth. This was very normal. Dr. Dre and Snoop. You know what I'm saying? You had all these MCs and artists, and we're talking about if Illmatic doesn't happen and Nas end up standing in the street doing underground hip hop with his friend Will, you're talking about one of the top 3 or 4 possible MCs in the history of rap. It never happens.
Yeah,
Potentially, it never happens. I can't say, obviously, it might have happened and happened even better. But sometimes in tragedy, you're inspired by the loss of someone you've cared about since y'all was playing in the sand together in Queensbridge.
yeah, and you know what's crazy? If we really want to do 6 degrees of separation, if Ill Will lived, maybe I'm a rapper. Maybe I
Right,
don't rap at all,
right,
because a lot of like with his death and around that time, it inspired some of my writing. I know if I was rapping the way I rapped in the past, and he was still here, I'm pretty sure I'd have an open gateway to a record deal or other opportunities. Not that I didn't with Nas, but it's the same thing. Like you said, things turn out differently, not only in the music game, but in people's lives and families and all types of stuff. So this is a very dope topic. Uh, it's kind of fun to think about, you know what I'm saying? If this person would have been out or whatever, man. How do you feel about what if N.W.A would never broke up? What if Ill Will never died and Illmatic was something different? What if Biggie and Tupac were still alive? Leave your comments in the comment section below. Discuss. We definitely will reply to your comments if you comment. And share this podcast with people you who would enjoy it, man. But you got to subscribe, though. All right, so this is a longer podcast than usual, but before you go, we have to give you our recommendation for this week. Hip hop albums, mixtapes, whatever it may be. My recommendation for this week is out of the year 1992, May 19th to be precise, directly connected to what we just ended off with the Illmatic and the Nas and Ill Will stuff. For me personally, X Clan's album Exodus, 11 tracks, one of my favorite albums of all time. I get into the conscious hip hop, but I like it to be entertaining. I like it to have a rhythm that kind of feels like a real lyrical album or a gangster album, but they just happen to have positive messages. Um, but the 6 Degrees of Separation, I really didn't plan this, but I thought about this album. For me personally, is this album was dropped not too long after Ill Will died, which is crazy because it became, for me personally, my sanctuary, because music was my sanctuary anyway. But I really dug deep into music, and I remember having this album at that time and on repeat. And I remember going to his wake with my headphones on in the back of the car, trying not to think about seeing my cousin in the casket and listening to this album on repeat and really digging deep into the lyrics and the words. And it's not so much about the event of what was happening around me, but it was the fact that the music was so damn good, it was helping me escape. Now, I'm not
Yeah,
saying you should go and out and start thinking about who passed away in your life and listen to this album. That's not the case. This album is crazy. It's only it's only 11 tracks. Dope records like Adam, Foreplay, Cosmic Art, Holy Rum Swing, FTP. That's their way of saying fuck the police. Um, just a really dope album, man. A group like Schoolie D that doesn't always get mentioned when they had the beats, they had the MC. X Clan is a group that probably should have had a much longer reign, but for whatever reason just didn't.
what you
Was
say,
kind of
brother Jay? What you say?
exactly. They were kind of looked at as a relic of that point in hip hop where you had your medallions on and stuff like that. And once it changed, it was like that's not cool to be black
Yeah,
and
hey,
proud.
well,
But
let me say this,
what do
man.
you think about it?
I'm gonna tell you first of all, the album was dope. I like the X Clan. I'm a big X Clan fan. Now I like the debut to the East Blackwoods. It's my favorite project by them because one of my favorite hip hop songs of all time is called "In the Ways of the Scale" by X Clan. You know what I'm saying? But your joint, your recommendation, a dope one as well. Brother Jay was an underrated MC. You know, rest in peace to my guy who passed away from the X Clan years ago. But Brother Jay definitely was the face of the X Clan, like Chuck E, the face of Public Enemy. Man, they were very important to hip hop to me in high school. It made me feel black and proud. I had my medallion on. I was dead serious about the lyrics of Brother Jay. Yeah, so that's a very dope recommendation, man.
Yeah, man. Professor X, rest in peace, man.
Professor
All right,
X, no
Tone,
doubt.
what's your
Vainglorious. Yes,
vainglorious?
sir. Rest in peace.
Yeah. And it wasn't, and to be fair, there's a reason why, like with Freaky Tah, without that voice,
Yeah,
without that speech, just wasn't the same music.
yeah.
Just wasn't. So it's not like they didn't try. But Tone, what's your recommendation for this week?
My recommendation, man, this week is from 2002, man, Talib Kweli's actual solo debut, Quality. Now, Talib, of course, had the Black Star album, and then he followed up with the Reflection Eternal album with High Tech, both classics. So people was like, okay, he's going to do his own solo joint. How was it going to be? Man, the dude didn't miss a beat. He had production from Jay Dilla and all these other different Kanye and all these guys, man, and, get buys on Quality, man. A classic hip hop track that people still play to this day. You know what I'm saying? The beats was knocking, the rhymes was dope. He even did a jump with DJ Quick. You know what I'm saying? So he had a very eclectic group of producers on there. It was Razor Sharp. He had a joint, man, about Black Pride called The Proud, which is one of my favorite joints by Talib and hip hop in general. He had the joint I like called Waiting for the DJ. It had a nice hip hop old school feel to it. Man, he had a joint called Won't You Stay? You know what I'm saying? Kind of a love song. You talking about beats, rhymes, good energy to an album. You know what I'm saying? Quality is one of the doper albums of the early 2000s. It was only 2 years after that amazing Reflection Eternal. Talib Kweli has a great array of albums. I think that some of his Twitter and social media stuff has kind of hurt him a little bit because at times he can go a little too hard on his righteousness and some of his bullshit. You know what I'm saying? And I think it's hurt Quality because Quality is a legendary underground MC, man. The shit that him and Most Def did with Black Star, the things he's done in his long successful, consistent career. Quality has a lot of albums, a lot of songs. He's toured the world a whole lot. I'm a fan of Quality. I wish he get on social media so people can appreciate his skills and his music. But man, Quality, man, if you guys haven't heard in a long time or never heard it at all, go to YouTube, put it or Amazon.com, what have you, put in Talib Quality, man, and give it a spin, man. Dope joint.
Yeah, man, I agree 100%. Very dope album. Tyler Quali, I got a couple of his albums in the catalog. Unfortunately, he's going to be one of those dudes who goes underappreciated. And unfortunately, it'll be something like, he passes away. Hopefully, he's an old man. And then that's when people realize, what he wrote, what he was saying, and appreciate his flow and what he brought to the game. But it's gotten to a point now where like his last album, Radio Silence, was really dope, but not a lot of people heard it. Not a lot of people listened to it because, like you said, Tone, followed that dude long enough and watch him battle racists online every 5 seconds. It just you just get tired of it, and it's kind
Yeah,
of taken away from what
it
he is
has.
as an artist. Yeah, man. But that's going to do it for us this week on That Time in Hip Hop. If you enjoyed this program, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Don't forget to hit that notification button so that when we post a new video here on the B Road Network, whether it be this podcast, which is a weekly podcast, or other content, you'll be notified via email. Also, know that if you want more information on topics like this and topics related to this, you can go to enterthedome.com. That's ENTERDADOME.com. You can go there, you can read some articles, and also you can keep up on this podcast. And if you a cat who like, I like watching the videos, but I don't get a lot of time to watch videos, do y'all got an audio version? Hell yes, we got an audio version. It's in the link in the description. You can go to soundcloud.com slash hip hop now podcast, or if you just go to iTunes or any podcast app and you type in Hip Hop Now podcast, not only do you get my weekly news podcast, but the audio version of That Time in Hip Hop is available on that stream. Support hip hop, support black music. Go out, you know what I'm saying? Listen to them recommendations, think about them what ifs, and most importantly, share this content with people enjoy hip hop music and culture. Until next time, y'all, on behalf of myself, Vegas, and Tone of enterthedome.com. See y'all next week. Peace.
Peace.